Life really starts at 50, as the saying goes. In this week's episode, I'm going to give you 10 financial goals that you need to hit if you are a 50-year-old. You do not want to miss this episode. Hi, welcome to the Financial Dispensary with me, Dr. G. We're currently busy with a series where I'm going to give you 10 financial goals that you need to hit in each decade of your life to guarantee financial independence and future success. If you are 20, 30 or 40 year old and you missed previous week's episodes, I'll drop the link up there for you to watch. And even if you are 50-year-old and you want to make sure that you have a strong foundation, go back and watch the previous episodes before you get stuck into this one. As always, I'm going to give you 10 tips, but for those of you that stick around till the end, there's going to be a bonus 11th tip for you to try and achieve while you are in your 50s. So let's get stuck in. The first financial goal that I want you to focus on is obviously an extension from last week's episode, which is eliminate debt. So based on my kind of experience, in your 50s, things are going to slowly but surely start falling into place. You will be well educated. You'll start earning a very good salary because you're well experienced by this stage. And that will obviously generate a strong cash flow. And I want you to utilize that strong cash flow towards debt. Inevitably, you would have incurred some debt over the last 2-3 decades. But in the 50s, I specifically want you to focus a lot of that cash flow and allocate it towards debt. And the reason for that is fairly simple. We are building up and working towards financial independence, towards retirement. And I don't want you to go into retirement with any debt left. So, first very important goal that you need to focus on. Next one, review all insurances. So again, an extension from the previous week's episode where I asked you to focus on building systems for excellence. And one of those systems would be a periodic review of all your financial affairs, including insurances. So remember, when you start out on this journey towards financial independence, let's say in your 20s, you don't have any other assets. So your need for insurance is quite high because you don't have any assets. But then over time, you start accumulating that assets. And because you start accumulating assets, your need and the requirements for insurance will start actually coming down slightly. And specifically in your 50s will be an ideal decade where you can kind of reassess all those insurances and decide which are still critical and which do you still need and which not. And hence why I say kind of reviewing the insurances, because remember, the assumption is that you've got other assets to fall back on in the event of something going wrong. Third financial goal, again, an extension from last week's episode, your electronic vault. Remember, we only have X amount of time on planet Earth. Eventually, you will pass on to the next life, but your loved ones will be left behind, and they would want to mourn and not get bogged down with administrative burden and challenges. So please, write down everything. Write down all the personal, sensitive financial information, passwords, PINs, etc., and tell the other people or the people close to you and those people in your inner circle in terms of where to get the data. So having a standardized place, and it ties very nicely in with your system for excellence, will save a lot of people a lot of headache. Fourth, very important goal is the kids' education. So again, making an assumption as you go into the 50s, your kids will start moving into their kind of teenage phase. So discussions around the dinner table will revolve around what do you want to do next year? What profession do you want to kind of occupy, or which career do you want to fulfill going forward? And as in previous episodes, it's very important that you identify or link specific investments to specific investment goals. So I want you to be crystal clear in terms of which investments you're going to use for the kids' education, and obviously make sure that there's sufficient funds as well in that specific investment. Because in your 50s will most likely be the period that you'll want to access those investments to make sure that the kids are well educated. Fifth one, diversify your income sources. So in your 50s, hopefully you don't just have one income source, which is, let's say, your salary or your normal occupation income. I want you, if you followed the steps in previous decades, you by now should have diversified your income sources. And by that I mean accumulated assets that also generate an income source. So whether it's rental income from your property portfolio, staking rewards from your crypto portfolio, dividends from your share portfolio, maybe you have a side hustle as a consultant and you earn additional income there. I want you to be able to diversify your income across multiple sources. Because remember, history doesn't repeat itself, but it definitely does rhyme. And what I mean with that is the market moves in cycles. There's good times, there's bad times, and the more diversified your portfolio, the more protected you are against future inevitable ups and downs. So focusing on accumulating and acquiring assets that generate income is very important, and diversifying your income source is key to that. Which ties in nicely to the sixth one, which is know how those specific assets and the income linked to them work. So I want you to be crystal clear in terms of frequency, the taxability of the income, how often does it happen, and so on and so forth, so that you can start building out your financial plan. Remember, I know of a lot of clients that buy a property that they want to use as investment property, as an example, so they're very dependent on the rental income. And in their assumptions, they assume that the property will be leased out indefinitely. But the reality is that there will be a lot of months that the property will be vacant. And that changes a lot of kind of assumptions in the background. So make sure that you have a very good understanding and grasp in terms of what assets you have and how will they deliver returns in the future. Seventh one, start a business if you haven't already. So in a previous series, specifically I mentioned in the 20s was a very good time for you to start a business. And I strongly believe in your 50s is also a very good time to maybe start a business. And the reason for that is kind of threefold. So the first thing is that, again, making an assumption, you've done something now for 20, maybe even 30 years already. So you're very well qualified. You've got a lot of experience in your specific area of expertise. So you're very well experienced. Second key point is that as the kids are now moving into their teenage phase, they're less dependent on you. Maybe not financially, but definitely time dependent, which means that you've got slightly more time on your hands. Remember, when kids are still small, there's a big requirement for time, but as they grow older, their needs shift, so you're going to have slightly more time than what you had maybe in the previous decade. And the third important point, as I mentioned right in the beginning, in the 50s is the decade that you're going to start earning very good money. So you're going to be cash flow, hopefully, quite solid. So if you bring all those elements together, you're going to have slightly more money, you're going to have slightly more time, and you're going to be very well experienced in your area or niche that you've done over the last 20, 30 years. You are ideally suited to start a business. By now you know where the weaknesses are, where the frustrations, bottlenecks, challenges are in the industry that you operate. And with your experience and with a slight amount of time and maybe slight amount of capital or income, you can maybe start a business to solve that specific problem. So maybe just give it a bash. The eighth one, rediscover your curiosity. So again, very important. The 50s is the last decade before we move into the 60s, which is most likely the retirement decade. And the reason why I want you to rediscover your curiosity, your childlike curiosity, is that at some point in time, you're going to stop doing what you're doing now. And you're going to have a lot of free time on your hand. I want you to find another purpose, kind of what is you version 2.0? What is the next chapter of your life? So in your 50s is an ideal time to use this decade to get curious and ask questions and figure things out and find something that provides you with pure joy and just kind of what invigorates you. Because at some point you're going to retire and you don't have to work anymore, but I don't want you to just sit at home and do Sudoku day in and day out. I want you to find your new purpose. And in the 50s is an ideal time to find out what makes you curious, or to rediscover your curiosity so that we can find out what really makes you tick. For me personally, I really enjoy gardening and cooking. So those are two hobbies that I can definitely see I can easily continue long into my old age. So again, find out what else makes you tick. Next one, make large investment decisions, be brave and never look back. So again, a common theme on this series of podcasts is I'm giving you the tools to upgrade your financial IQ, giving you the tools and the knowledge to become more financially astute. So again, if we start pulling everything together, in the 50s, you're going to have maybe more money than what you need. So you will be able to make financial decisions. And if you've done the hours, if you put in the hard work, you will be financially astute. So if an opportunity crosses your path, I want you to take it. In your 50s is probably the last time that you can be brave, make large decisions and execute on that. So if that opportunity comes, I want you to take it. Because you've got the financial knowledge, you know how to interpret the financial opportunity, and I want you to make use of it. Last one, write your own obituary and get to work. So we all know time is very, very precious. At some point, somebody's going to write down your obituary and there's going to be things said about you. What is your legacy? What are you going to be known for? Write down your obituary while you're still alive. Write down the things that you want other people after your passing to say that you were known for this or that. And then I want you to roll up your sleeves and get to it. There's nothing as invigorating as knowing that you've got a precious, finite amount of time left on earth to really invigorate you to take action and to move the needle on a couple of big projects that you are currently working on. And there you have it, the 10 financial goals that I want you to start to focus on in your 50s. As always, I promise you a bonus 11th goal for those that are still around. And the bonus one is retirement and tax, and how these two elements kind of bring it all together. So remember, as I said, the 50s is going to most likely be the last decade that you're going to kind of make big investment decisions. But in next week's episode, we're going to focus on retirement and how to utilize the income streams that you've generated on the assets that you've accumulated. So retirement and tax is going to be a key element thereof. And I want you, while you're still in your 50s, to start putting a plan in place and have a clear understanding in terms of which assets generate which income and what is the tax linked to all of that, and how we can start building out a proper retirement plan for you based on the income that you can generate from the assets that you've accumulated, but taking into consideration the tax consequences as well. And there you have it. Thank you for sticking around. After this series of 10 financial goals that I want you to achieve per decade, I'm going to go deeper and more, let's say, technical and specific kind of topics. So if you have any questions or any kind of recommendations or areas that you want me to delve into, please drop it in the comment section below and I'll definitely add it to my list in terms of topics that I want you to discuss. As always, if you found the format valuable or the content valuable, be a pal and smash that like button. And also please share this week's episode with family and friends that you feel might benefit from the content that I share here. And that's it. Until next week, thank you very much. Goodbye.